I'm going to try to speed things up from now on, but we can see Thrace trying to build a city up here in Rome, actually. The Italians have thrown a couple pieces in to disrupt it. They don't have anything better to do with their pieces. They can't actually build a city with what they're doing. They're spreading throughout the Aegean here and trying to fight the Thracians. They're in a lot of trouble down there. Cutting across, we see Thrace building its cities. All kinds of them. They may not be able to support all these cities. Well, this one's being destroyed, so I think they're okay. But they had it counted so that they couldn't lose troops, but they're going to lose troops. The Cretans trying to extend their hold further into the Near East, being stomped really by both Babylon and Assyria here. Just Assyria pushing its way deeper in, Assyria pushing here, Babylon pushing further and further towards the northwest. Down here, Babylon trying to establish itself to maintain its position there to some extent. Really just struggling. They're only going to get one city over here in the floodplain. Egypt getting a city here. Africa unable to build a city, spreading out to position themselves for another turn. Now they've got to make their hump, and that's going to be tough with only 2 cities and the trade card they're holding. We're seeing a fairly violent game. When I play solo, it tends to be. When I play with other people, usually I find they buckle to my will, as, say, the Assyrians, for example, or the Thracians, where I'm very violent and grab a lot of territory. They sort of seem more willing not to be as cutthroat as I tend to be solo. One thing to note, it looks like we're more than halfway through or something. That's not at all the case. The turns start slowing down tremendously. Trading especially takes a long time, but there's a lot of other aspects to it too. One reason why I'm speeding things up in terms of I'm not going to play the detail of each move. Early on, spreading out, I was doing that. Well, I'm not going to do that anymore, but I'm also not even going to worry so much about individual trades, maybe not even individual purchases. We're just going to kind of look at the whole gestalt as we move forward from now on, I think. The kind of cheating that I thought I caught Assyria doing last turn, and I think they were guilty of it, Babylon tried to do this time. They tried to build 7 cities. Well, when I counted their people, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, that's 1 short, so they had to decrease a city. They took the one in their background back here because that's not at risk. It's better to build your walls forward. This can rebuild itself fairly soon. These others, they're more tricky if they fall, but actually I think I'm going to destroy this one because I've got more population around it. It's something I got to watch. It's easy to make that mistake when you're not paying full attention to running your country, when you're running 7 different countries. Turns out Assyria and Crete made the same mistake and had to lose a city they were planning on building. In both their cases, though, they were attacked in ways that they couldn't count on. I think Thrace would have survived had they built this one, actually. They had a lot of manpower. Something like, I don't know, they had everything but these, so that was like 43 people on the board. Ouch. Okay, time to pass things out, and I'll come back, I think, when the purchases are done, unless we get a pass of a calamity, because I want to focus in on that, and that's quite likely actually this turn, I think. Well, that's not going to happen, but poor old Assyria got a civil war. Now they're big enough they're going to get affected by it, and we'll see how that splits them up, I think. Anyway, on to the trading and purchasing. Some people definitely have to make their edge here. Africa, Italy, Thrace, Crete, all of them. Some may have some serious trouble here. So one thing I don't allow in my solitaire games is a negotiation, because of the complexity of trying to do it. A negotiation coming to sort of a 3-way deal. Sometimes 3 or 4 people get together and figure out how they can get a pattern going. Running through a couple of times, it often happens, but this turn I feel like in a real game would have fallen out with some good trades. They didn't happen. We're going to see how badly they didn't happen when we see the purchases. But I just wanted to let people give a little warning. A lot of people who are at stop points, they're not going forward, they're not growing. Some people may have to throw trade goods, actually, because it was a really bad trade round. Not many cards picked up here. There was a sale. Crete picked up Astronomy. They got it for 20 bucks off because they had a green already with Mysticism. So it only cost them 60. They had like 4 grain and a bunch of cash went over. Just making sure nobody's... You see, Assyria is kind of in trouble with all this money. They threw out a couple of 2-point cards that are now underneath that calamity, which is kind of interesting. It means people who aren't doing the worst are going to get commodities because that calamity is sitting on top. So there's going to be a race not to have the worst number of cities. Italy got architecture, but they couldn't get enough to put them past their limit there. And other than that, nobody picked up anything. Now, there's going to be some problems with that, but let's go do the Civil War. Alright, who does Assyria want to pick as their buddy? Well, we can see Africa and Italy are not going forward. These are the people that we'd most like to help. So, tough to say which one's more threatening. I think Africa is doing better than Italy right now, so I'm going to pick Italy. Let's see how many points we have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 30. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 42. Now it's 35. That means there's going to be like 7 points going to Italy. I get to pick 15 points that I want to keep. I'd kind of like to keep this stuff over here because I think that's going to be harder for me to keep hold of. I'm going to be taking the bigger faction. Sometimes it's just about even when you have a really huge board presence, all your cities and all your people, where either side would be reasonable. But here that 35 point sounds good. I want to make sure that I have some humans though, and the Italians probably want cities more than anything else. So that's 10, 15, 16, 17. Oops. I better not take 15. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 15. Is that what I want? Turn one of these back and take this. Now Italy gets to pick 20 points. Personally, Italy really wants the cities. Can they support them all is the question. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They can support 8 cities. So, with 4 cities, they're probably fine. So now I get to pick 20 points. I'm going to pick as many people as I can. Yeah, I don't want to be stuck in the land here. 3, 4, 5. And now I got to pick 15 more points. This looks like a pretty tough city to attack. So my other cities that I'm going to throw are going to be these. Now the Assyrians are going to obviously take the flipped over pieces, which means they lose this city. And Italy gets it. And they lose these 2 people. And Italy gets them. Now, somewhere there was a rule that you had to take. This was in an expansion or modification or something, that you had to take the person with the largest stock as your recipient for the Civil War. I really don't like that, because what it does is it's because the Civil War could be used offensively against someone. Hey, you're the Civil War. I'm going to eat up your stock. Your cities are going to revolt. It's going to be bad for you. To me, it was an overreaction. The proper reaction is allow people to refuse the Civil War if they want to. They can say, I don't want to be the recipient, pick someone else. In general, I think that works a lot better. Maybe that got cleared up somewhere, or maybe it's still stuck with that little bit of Rome. What about this flood here? Well, luckily for Crete, they have no floodplains that they're on. Floodplains are these dark areas. A flood would do a lot of damage, and I don't know the exact numbers, but it's a decently large number, to someone who's on a floodplain, to the stuff they have on the floodplain. And then the person can also deal damage to someone else on that same floodplain. In general, only one person's on a floodplain. The plains are here at Po, coming here along the Danube, in Mesopotamia, and then of course the Nile. The only person who's sharing one right now is the Egyptians and Africans. Well, that didn't work out as short as I had hoped it would. Let's load this one up. Oh, let's spend the rest of this one looking at who goes forward. Africa cannot go forward. They don't have their 3 colors. All they have is the literacy they bought last turn. Italy, all they have is the architecture they bought this turn. Thrace, they didn't grow. They don't go forward. Crete, they were set last turn. They pop out. Assyria is fine, but now they got to get 7 cards. That means 4 more cards next turn. That's not going to happen. This is the thing. In the original game, you go forward. There may be 1 stopping point for everyone or something like that, but it's all very clean usually. We'll see. I think they've got 1 stopping point. And I don't think that's guaranteed in the first one, but I think it's almost guaranteed in the expanded trade deck. I think it's almost guaranteed in the unexpanded. Babylon has a city, which is all they need. Egypt has a city, which is all they need. Uh-oh. Egypt also needs 7 cards. That's going to be really, really tough, especially with the way poor Egypt's doing with only 3 cities. This is why you take a turn to stay back. Because if you take that turn to stay back, you're in the same position as people like Assyria. Assyria is doing great. The problem? Well, you don't meet your expectations here, and Assyria is probably staying back here too. So, what if you did stay back? Well, you've got an extra turn to meet this compared to Assyria, so you may flow perfectly fine. As it stands, I'm not sure how well it's going to go. It's almost never that you can make it smoothly, though, with the expanded deck. And if you play with it, or without the expanded deck. And if you play with the expanded deck, Egypt and Babylon have to make the stop here or here. It's almost guaranteed. You can see how badly off they are for trying to run through it. Well, that's going to be the same with either deck. That doesn't really make much difference. What does make a difference is Assyria is going to be stopped too. Almost guaranteed, although they have a hell of a hand of cards. So I don't know, maybe they can get there 4. We'll see. Alright, up this one goes.